Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Barbarisi from the BX. What's going on with everybody tonight? I hope everybody had a blessed weekend. I hope everybody took care of themselves and enjoyed themselves and enjoyed their families. Yes, okay? And I want everybody to have a wonderful week coming up. Like I said, this week coming up, I'll be doing things a little more organized. So tonight I'm going to start on my journey with starting with my experiences and my life, from when I was growing up and everything like that. So let me start from the very beginning. This way I'll have this as a reference and I'll just keep going with this is part 1, part 2, part 3. And this way it'll be easier to understand where I came from in this situation, how I wound up at Hunts Point for all those years. Okay. I was born in a big Italian family. It was the cusp of the 1980s. So basically, what was going on is my parents came from Westchester County. They wanted to buy a big house with the white picket fence and the whole nine, a yard to run in. My dad was living a double life. My father owned a bar back in the day. It was called JB's Pub. It was a big hit. But after he lost the bar, he wound up working for Pepsi. So my father, he had an apartment in Queens. That's where his mistress and him would do their thing, and my father would only come home on the weekends. So that's basically why, me and my sister were victims of sexual abuse, was because of that. If my father didn't do that, if he didn't live a double life and he did come home, we wouldn't have got abused, because my cousin took advantage of the fact that my father was not around. So my cousin started molesting me and my sister when I was 4, and my sister was 8 because she's 4 years older than me. And what he would do is he would molest us, like during Sunday football games. At that time, my dad was home, but he would do it during the week as well. But predominantly, what burned in my memory was the Sunday football games, because everybody was there. My whole family was there in the living room, and I didn't know what he was doing was wrong. I was only 4 years old. My sister was only 8. And my sister was more reserved from me, even though she was older. She was a lot more reserved and kept to herself. She has a very, a more, she's kind of like an introvert personality, and a lot of it stems because of the abuse. So he would sit us on each lap, and he was only a teenager when he started doing this to us. He lost his father, and I guess he took it out on me and my sister. So he would sit us on each lap, put a blanket over us, and start molesting us in front of everyone. He would make us touch him. He would make me, like jerk him off and stuff. And this happened in front of everybody, and nobody knew. And I asked my mother the other day, I said, Mom, I said, didn't you notice it was odd that Paul was sitting with us on the couch on his lap with a blanket over us? And she admitted to me, she said, I didn't know he was doing that. She said, I didn't think to think that way. She said, my therapist used to say to me that you didn't look at it like that because you don't think like that. I said, but Mom, he had a blanket over us. And then, isn't that a little weird, a teenage boy having your daughters on each lap? I said, if that was me, I would have known right away, even if I didn't think like that, because it's strange to have 2 kids, 2 little girls on a teenage boy's lap with a blanket over you. That's odd. That's not something you see all the time. So, basically, my mother confessed to me. She said, I didn't know he was going to do that. And she was elaborating to me, and I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I gave him the blanket. So here it is, my mother gave my cousin the blanket in which he molested me and my sister underneath that very blanket. I never knew this. Never knew this until the other day. It really struck me as very hard to believe that she did not know what he wanted the blanket for. My mother, mind you, pushed me on my stepfather. So I don't know. My mother is not a bad woman. If you were homeless on the street, she would stop and give you money. She would stop and feed you. She would do anything for anybody, and I have the same traits. I get it from her. But the difference between me and her is that when I have my children, I want to protect them from everything and everything. And I just don't understand. What I do understand is my father told me, may he rest in peace, my father. My father's the only one, when I eventually told him, because I would tell my mother and she would reject me. I would say, Mom, he's touching us. I didn't know. And she would just tell me to stay away from him. So I did tell her. Now, was it after the fact of the blanket? I don't remember. But I do remember telling her. So if it was, then that means, God forgive me, that my mother knew. Okay? And I hope to God that is not the case, because I talk to my mother. I go over to her house where my rapist is, Mike, my stepfather. I face him to this day. He's on Megan's list. But I go over to her house out of respect for my mother. Do you know how hard that is, to go over to my mother's house and have that man there? It's like, and even my husband Tito has to everyone just has to pretend that this didn't happen. This is the life that I'm living right now. It is so disturbing. And the only reason why I speak to my mother is because she's my mother. And even though she put me through these things, I couldn't just not talk to her, because I know she's not a bad person. But I don't want to believe that she allowed this to happen to me. I do know that she did push me on her husband when I was 12, when I moved in with her. I do know that. But what I don't understand is, was she doing it in the wrong pretenses, or was she doing it just to get us to be close? She would tell me often to sit on his lap. She would tell me to rub his feet and rub his back. But I'm going on, that's later on in my life, so I want to stick to what I'm telling you initially from when I was 4 till I was 8. So, my cousin would molest me and my sister at the same time a lot of times. He would take us up to the room. He would make us masturbate on dolls. He would make us masturbate on each other. He would make us touch each other. He would make us touch him. He would do really weird, sick, twisted stuff with us. And I know that, like with Kelly, that's why I understand, when she was telling her situation, people say that she's a liar. But just because someone doesn't cry, you have to understand, when you go through trauma like that, everybody's different. Me, I block it out, the images. I block it out. I have the memories, of course, but I've told my situation so many times and I am numb towards it. It's like pressing a record button, because I've told my story, my situation, my experience. I told it so many times. I've been to therapy since I was a kid. Because after what happened, I moved in with my father. What happened was, it's me and my sister, after we were being abused. And one other thing I'll tell you before I tell you this. There was one time my cousin brought my sister up to the room and said, I'm going to bring her to do homework. Guys, I went up that stairs and I started banging on the door. I said, leave my sister alone. I started banging on the door. I said, leave my sister alone. I know what you're doing to her. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. And my sister said that he was molesting her the whole time. And there, and all I was banging, and I couldn't help her. I tried so hard to help her, and I couldn't. And to this day, I still remember sitting at the last step, and the door was right there, and just banging on the door. Where my mother was at the time, I don't know. In the house somewhere. My mother was going through a lot because my father was living a double life, so she wasn't paying attention to what was happening to me and my sister. It's not an excuse, though. Okay? Like me. I went through horrific stuff, but is that going to be an excuse for me not to pay attention to my child? Are you crazy? That should give you more reason to pay attention to your kids, That should be more reason, especially if your child is telling you that this person is touching them. How are you going to let that slide? If my child ever told me that somebody was touching them, I would kill them. There's no question. I wouldn't even, I can't even give you words. I don't care if it was my nephew or not. Those are my kids. And that is what potentially led to my demise, to my destruction. A potential demise, because you know how many times I could have been dead. Hey, Tito, guys, I'm talking a little loud, so I gotta be more reserved. But I get very emotional. You know, this is not easy to talk about. So, as he was doing those things to us, there was a time I went to visit my father in his apartment in Queens with my stepmother, his mistress, that he met at the bar. I said, Dad, we were watching a film called Don't Touch. I don't know, you can look it up. It was a little film back in the 80s. This was 1988. I was 8 years old, so at the time I was being molested for 4 years straight by my cousin, me and my sister. She was 12. And there was this film for kids about not letting people molest you. It was called Don't Touch. And the pedophile splashed paint on the little girl's shirt. And he was painting a teddy bear for her. And I remember this like it was yesterday. The guy, the pedophile, was painting a teddy bear for the little girl. And he got a splash of paint on her shirt. And he told her, take your shirt off. And he went to touch her. And I said to my father, I said, Dad, I said, that's what Paul did to me and Diane. And my sister said, yes, he's doing that to us. And my father, you could see the rage. You could see the anger. You could see the betrayal. He got so mad. He said, your mother, that son of a bitch, I got her now. She's dead. All this like crazy stuff. He was freaking. Of course, I'm glad he was. He was bugging out. He's like, no wonder Paul was always trying to be close to you guys. No wonder he was always trying to be close to me. No wonder he was, because my dad said he was always kissing my father's ass. He was always saying, oh, Uncle JB, can I help you with this? Uncle JB, can I help you with that? Now my father put two and two together, why he was always close to us and why he was always trying to be extra nice to my father. Because he was molesting us, guys. He was molesting us and he was trying to get away with it. And I'll never forget that film. I'll never forget that film. That film saved us because we would have went back. We didn't go back to my mother's house after that. We stood with my father, and my father took us to get our hymen checked. Our hymen was popped and everything because he would stick stuff inside of us. And I'm just numb towards all of this. I think a lot of it stems from the trauma I experienced on the street, which a lot of that was horrific. So when I talk about this, it's like a recording in my head. It's like I experience these things, but I'm so numb to them that it hurts, it stings, but I'm numb to them now. I'm just like when I talk about my kids not being with me anymore. It hurts so bad that I'm numb. And I don't know if anyone can understand where I'm coming from about being so hurt that your brain puts up a defense mechanism. And that's what happened with me. I put up a defense mechanism because I know no other way. So that's the beginning of my childhood. That went on for years, and he did really disgusting things to us. And I could still feel my hand on his penis, if you can understand what I mean by that. I could still feel my little hand under that blanket touching him. I could still feel it to this day, and it's sick, and it makes me sick. So that's the beginning of my life, guys, and I'll be sharing more with you tomorrow. Okay, I hope everyone has a blessed night, and God bless you guys. Okay, thank you for listening. Ciao.